Hey guys, it's Brett here, and I wanted to share something. Something that I really loved. Second Chronicles chapter 30. We are with the King Hezekiah, who is bringing basically Israel and Judah back to the Lord, back to the ways of God, because you had generations that were not following the Lord, that turned their backs, that began making altars and worshiping other gods and all of the bad, okay? They had turned their back on God, okay? And we see Hezekiah, he's different. He decides, no, we are going to turn back to the Lord. And he basically structures the entire country. He gets rid of those bad things. And then he sends, and something so epic. So he sends out letters, handwritten, to the entire country of God, to all of Israel and Judah. Imagine like the President of the United States sending a letter to all of the states, all of the leaders, whatever, saying, hey, come here to Jerusalem and we're going to celebrate the Passover, okay? Just an epic event. So everyone shows up from all these different states. It's a big, epic event. That's how I see it. And we have some people from certain states that show up and they're not actually purified or cleansed in the proper ways that they had to according to the laws of Moses, because God had put in place how you are clean, how to purify yourself in order to participate in these rituals. So the priests, they had to cleanse themselves, or the high priest had to purify himself before doing his job or a specific job of his. And so we get to this moment where all these people are here for the Passover. This is this huge kind of celebration, and they're not clean. They're not clean. And they participated. They were not participating according to the rules, right? The laws. And Hezekiah, so it becomes known. It's known. So Hezekiah, knowing this, he prays to the Lord. He says, Lord, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically cries out to him to cleanse them, to purify them, and those whose hearts are true and truly searching for him. Basically, it's Lord, you know their hearts, cleanse them. Those who are truly want this, who truly seek you, truly desire you. I'm paraphrasing. It's in Second Chronicles chapter 30, specifically verses 16 to 20 is kind of like the area. But the Lord, it says, Jehovah hears Hezekiah's prayer and he purifies them, or he cleanses them. Depending on your version, it might use a specific word. But I just think that is so beautiful, because this is the Old Testament, where the laws were how you became clean, right? Typically, right? God himself implemented these rituals and laws, okay? To cleanse yourself or to purify yourself, and all of that. And so we see, so this is the first time, as I'm reading through the Old Testament, it's the first case of this type of situation, of this moment, where God comes in and cleanses, purifies, even though they maybe weren't living according to the law in which God had called them to live. They were not living according to the way that God wanted them to, or they were not walking in the way that God had commanded, right? And so that is the gospel. God allowing us to be cleansed, even though we are sinners, right? Even though we are dirty, or even though we are wretched. And that is just a beautiful example in the Old Testament, where God heals, purifies, or cleanses these people. And so I don't know. I just think that's so encouraging. I love the mercy of God in this story, in this chapter. Even though it seems simple, maybe on surface level, but it just touched my heart. And so I just feel like, man, that's the gospel. That is the gospel. God cleansing these people who maybe weren't living accordingly, who weren't doing it accordingly. And I feel like we can put ourselves in that situation. You can put whoever in that, any sinner. You can take a guy from the Mexican cartel who's a hired assassin for them, who's living in that lifestyle, and then he comes to the realization of who God is, what God wants from him, what God requires of him, just everything of who the Lord is, and his heart reaches out, and he wants God. And God's like, okay, yes, welcome. I will cleanse you. You will be mine, and I will be yours. It's the gospel message. And so, God bless you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.